Biden.
Yeah,
Let's just move on to national forecast, which
yeah,
may actually be a continuation of Biden.
yeah.
um, yeah, that's a big change, isn't it, guys? Why don't you run through that? I mean, at one point, no majority was a pretty strong leader, and Joe Biden was a distant third. Things change.
Yeah, just like 17 days ago, we had no majority in the lead in the mid 40s, Sanders in the mid 30s, and Biden in the mid 20s. But what I would remind everyone, these are all probabilities. In other words, when no majority was in the mid 40s, Biden was still in the mid 20s. Means one, it means 20-ish percent of the time Biden ends up on top, and so here we are. The probabilities are always right.
I mean, but let's talk about sort of the other side of this. I mean, this is reporting a 1 in 4 chance that Sanders could still walk away with it. What are some of the reasons for that, Scott? Why Sanders is doing maybe so well? Is that still tied into the California vote that's still outstanding, and the delegates to be allocated from that large delegate haul? Because we just spent pretty much the whole national polling update talking about how Biden is doing so well, Biden. And yes, he's in the lead right now in the national forecast. But kind of based on what the conventional wisdom is, Sanders seems a little bit high, considering most of us are just counting him down and out at this point.
Yeah, a lot of it is look, Biden is going to make it close in California, but Sanders is certainly going to get a net delegate lead. It's probably when California is done counting and all the Super Tuesday states are done allocating, Biden will have between a 50 and 100 delegate lead. I mean, that's relatively close. It's pretty close when you're talking about 1,991 needed to clinch it. And you know, that probability will go down if tomorrow shakes out like the polls show it will. But even then, like you said, 4 years ago in Michigan, you know, Sanders was losing to Hillary and did not lose to her in Michigan. And so I think people are kind of holding their breath to see what Michigan looks like, which is to say tomorrow in some of the other states. And the model is taking that into account in terms of polling error and things like that. So that's why we still have, the national outlook the way it is. If you look at Michigan, our projected vote share is 53% for Biden, 41% for Sanders. That's roughly a 10-point lead. Polling shows something similar, but I will remind everyone again, probably not the last time in the seat, Sanders was down 8 points in the RCP average and 1 in Michigan. So you know there's still could be some surprises.
Everybody keeps talking about Michigan, and it's fair enough if he can pull up the upset again. But at some point, it's one thing to say, well, you're going to upset and you're going to win by 2 or 3 points. But if you're getting blown out in every other state by 10 to 12 points, how much does that upset, that small upset, really help you in the end? And also, what do you guys have for Washington? I mean, if somehow Biden can either pull it out there or narrow the margin, I mean, is a win in Michigan obviously better to have a win than not, but is it really a momentum changer? Is it something that's going to change the course of the rest of the campaign?
Look, if Sanders wins in Michigan,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
But loses bigger everywhere else and doesn't do as well in Washington as maybe people think.
Yeah, look, if he surprises in a state like Michigan, which would be a surprise because all polling shows he's down, and he keeps it close in Washington or takes Washington, I think the talk will be for the next 4 or 5 days is Sanders is still alive, and he's going into a one-on-one debate on Sunday, and he'll have an opportunity to hit Biden pretty hard before he goes into states like Florida, Illinois. In other words, he might go into the weekend, down 200-300 delegates, but a surprise win in Michigan and a narrow win in Washington, and some momentum. It's still a race. Biden would still be favored, but that would certainly tighten up. That national projection would tighten up.
Yeah, do we think? We're not to do a preview of the following week, but where does the race kind of stand going into then Arizona, Florida, Ohio, Illinois? Where do we think the race stands going into there? Where, like, let's say Sanders stays alive through this week and maybe performs better than we're expecting in, say, Michigan and Washington. What do we think, Drew? What are kind of your thoughts as to maybe who would have the edge in some of those larger delegate contests?
Well, it does come down to the debate on Sunday because we've seen debates move things, right? We saw it in New Hampshire with Amy Klobuchar. We saw it in South Carolina with Biden, which then had knock-on effects, and even back to the Nevada debate with Bloomberg. So it does have an impact, but Sanders is going to need it to have a big impact. In 2016, he didn't win any of those states. The closest one was Illinois, I think, which was under 2%, and progress and did worse from there down to I think 16% in Florida or something like that. So there's not a state coming up next week where you say, okay, that's natural territory for Bernie Sanders. It's definitely where somebody like Joe Biden is definitely looking to do well, would expect to do well, and would need some sort of, I think, external factor, being a debate kind of thing or some sort of gaffe on the campaign trail. I just think it's hard to see where Bernie Sanders looks next week and says, yeah, that's a good spot for us to pick up a win and a lot of delegates.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. So before we run, since we had 40 seconds last time, we'll add to this one who you want to be, because that's what we got to do. And I think we have a good read on this, but let's get it officially out there. Who do you want to be, Scott?
I mean, definitely Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, you're the leader. You raised money. It's yours to lose. And man, you've lost several presidential races in the past. So who wouldn't want another clean shot at it?
Podko?
Yeah, let's go with Joseph Robinette Biden yet again.
I'm going to go with Bloomberg staffers who found out they're staying on because he's just going to keep spending, as he said he would. I think there was a lot of question whether he would spend that money on helping Sanders, but now that it looks like he can help Biden, he's staying on. So the consultant gravy train rolls on. God bless them.